Oh, hey, has it been another month already? My God. I did look. Okay, last month's was a long video. Well, there's going to be a long video again because I watched a lot. Holy shit. Okay, I actually did a calculation when Mum got home that I had watched about 45 films between them going overseas and them coming back. That included the week of me and my brother watching a bunch of Insidious films. That video will also be out soon if it hasn't already come out. Come Relax Talk, coming soon. What did I watch in July? It was a lot. I watched a lot of shit. I've been very busy watching a lot of movies because my parents were overseas, my brother was overseas, and now they're all back, and oh my god, my life sucks again. Privilege. Anyway, what do we start with? Oh, right. The second of. I didn't watch anything on the 1st of July. I was really busy with work. I'd filmed most of the day, then I had to go to sleep at 9 o'clock so I could get up at 5:30 on Sunday, which was the 2nd of July, so I could do 6 hours of filming hockey, 2 hours of filming football, and then I could go home and do chores. And I did that. And then I was also like, you know what? I got home earlier than I expected. I'm going to watch The Bridge on the River Kwai. 5 stars. Fracking masterpiece. I was wide awake watching this shit. I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then when I went to bed, I was like, I've been awake for 18 hours. That was a long week. That was a very long week. But yeah, I figured I hadn't seen it yet. The 4K was just sitting on my shelf screaming at me. Julian, for fuck's sake, I've been in your collection for 4 years. Just watch it. Probably 4 years. I don't know. It's been a long time, but I watched it and I fucking loved it. It's one of the best, unless I was just really, really in the mood for it, like in terms of like, I was so fucking tired. But incredible 4K transfer. It's one of those, once the credits end, the 4K transfer after that, baby. Beautiful, he says, after literally a couple of days later watching Roadhouse on 4K and being like, oh shit, that looks even better. Anyway, then I watched Silent Hill on the Monday. I've had the Umbrella Blu-ray for a year, I think. I've never played the games. I know very, very little. I know about some of the creatures because of the nurses and Pyramid Head because of cosplays. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was really interesting. It was very quiet, which was annoying, and then it became very loud, which is annoying. But I think that's a sound design thing where it's like you go watch that in cinema, and someone I had was following literally watched it a few days earlier, and like I don't know, 35mm or something, and they were like, that's one of the kind of things where you go to the cinema, they will up the volume like crazy so you can hear the quiet parts, and then when it gets really loud, it's like, oh my god, you know. It was really interesting. I thought it was really well done. I think it's a very weird film, but I think it works for what it's going for. It's spooky and cool, with some really nice practical creature designs as well as some of the CGI creature designs. So yeah, I don't know. It was like one of those, I can understand this being a video game. Like, I could be like, I could see how this could be played out, you know? It was fun. I liked it. So, it's pretty neat. I'm yet to watch the sequel, Revelation. I don't think I ever want to. But I've heard that the same guy's doing, like, Welcome to Silent Hill or something like that, so I might check that out. We'll see. Then I watched a bunch of those Cronenberg films. I actually did all three in the same day. I watched Transfer from 1966. I didn't give it a review per se because it was a short film, but like a amateur short film, like, oh, I got a camera, let's see what we can film, rather than a actually well produced $10,000 kind of short film. Um, it was fine. I was from the Arrow video release. I thought it was decent. It was interesting. They've all got really nice remasters. This is for Transfer from the Drain and Stereo, and eventually Crimes of the Future. Nice transfers. Weird films. I liked Transfer. It was kind of funny. I watched From the Drain right after. I thought it was kind of shit. It was like he just doubled down on the idea of the style of transfer, but instead of it being outside in the cold where it's meant to be a transfer, it's a um, like a psychiatrist thing, you know, a psychiatrist talking to their patient, but they're in the middle of the goddamn wilderness and it's freezing. And I thought that that was kind of absurdist and funny. But then he does like the exact same thing for From the Drain, which is just two people in a bathtub, and it just kind of sucks. The audio is fucking terrible because they're in a bathroom, so it's like the audio is going to sound awful unless you've got really good equipment. And this is 1967, and it's low budget as hell, so you know, like no budget kind of thing. There's stop motion in it, which is fun, but the rest of it kind of sucks. Then I watched Stereo, which is also known as Tile 3B of the CAEE Education Mosaic. I gave it 2.5 stars. I said this is the equivalent of listening to Cronenberg explaining his themes in his films. It's on the nose, it's in its discussion, and despite some nice photography, it lacks any audio other than the voiceover. It makes this dreadfully boring to sit through. Same as Crimes of the Future. Basically, they're the exact same style of film. One's black and white, one's in colour, but they both have no audio except for the occasional dialogue that comes over the top. I don't mind Stereo as much. I gave it 2.5 stars. It has some interesting discussions because it's talking about people who have telepathy. Obviously, not real, but it's like meant to be disguised as an experiment. I liked what some of the people talked about and some of the imagery that it provoked, but then what was happening on screen was like had no relation, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is like the most pretentious shit you could ever watch. Like, I've seen David Lynch's short films and they don't feel pretentious, they just feel mental. These were just boring. Anyway, to rejuvenate my palate, I watched Rosemary's Baby, the Criterion release that I've had for a couple of years now. I don't even know if I'd logged it before. No, I hadn't. I gave it 5 stars. It's just a really well-made film. I even wrote for my review, my man Guy over here couldn't be more uncomfortable being cucked by the devil. I found that hilarious because my mate is also called Guy, and the husband is called Guy. It's a weird name, but yeah, so it's obviously a really good transfer. Criterion release is fantastic. It's an amazing film. I know director's a piece of shit. That's okay. In this case, it's a before he was a piece of shit kind of still, so I'm kind of more okay with watching it. But still, I'm in a Mia Farrow mood, not in a Polanski mood. Let's be honest. Anyway, on the 5th of July, I watched Crimes of the Future, the 1970s version. I gave it 2 stars. It has no real relation to the 2022 version, even though it comes on most of the 4Ks and Blu-ray transfers that you buy of that movie. It does. Not weird. It's on the Neon release. I think it's going to be on the second sight release as well. I didn't care for it at all. I was like, this is dreadfully boring. I wanted to sleep while I was watching it. It's just a weird fetishism film, I think. It does have interesting moments, mostly, again, the part which clearly is like, hey, this is the guy who grows cancerous organs, and he cuts them out for surgery and sells them or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's just Crimes of the Future 2022 in like a small little piece of dialogue. Wonderful. The rest of this movie's fucking crap. So yeah, not great, Cronenberg. It's one of those, it clearly shows the themes and ideas that he expresses for the rest of his filmography. Sure, as a film nerd, as a Cronenberg fan, you can see that stuff and be like, wow, so he really had that from the get-go. And look, sometimes it's really cool to see that, but also sometimes it's cool to just watch the proper narrative features that he did, like Rabid, and the stuff that he did like 3 years after Crimes of the Future. The one that isn't the car racing film that I think he did. What was that, Paul Thomas Anderson? I'm pretty sure it was Cronenberg. Either way, Paul Thomas Anderson. Yes, I started watching Paul Thomas Anderson films last month. I've watched them all before. I just wanted to rewatch them. Hard 8 and Magnolia being the exception. I hadn't seen them before. Finally got around to rewatching The Master. I gave it 4.5 stars. I watched my Blu-ray release. This film looks incredible. I watched it in 70mm at the Astor a few years back, and I realized a lot of people watched it in 70mm because a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd are like, oh my god, this was seen in 70mm. My friend Ben watched it like 3 times on 3 different years in 70mm at the Astor. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like one of his favorite films. I think it's my favorite of Hoffman's performances. It's my favorite of his. I love him in this film. He's tremendous. He's amazing in so many goddamn films. It's his birthday actually today that I'm filming this, ironically. But yeah, it's just I gave it 4.5. It's not my favorite of PT's films. It's probably his best. It just ain't my favorite. I'm yet to actually rewatch Licorice Pizza, but I have seen it twice now, so I think I've got a pretty definitive list on my PT films. I might do a video ranking his films if anyone's interested. I don't really do that with directors, but I like to look at them and compare them, so I might do that. I have a list now on my phone on Letterboxd, so check it out. Anyway, I also watched the short feature he did, a short film called Back Beyond, which is just a bunch of deleted scenes for the film that he's just put together. The ending was funny, the little actual deleted scene or whatever. On the 6th, I watched Burial Ground. This was a double feature day I did with Roadhouse as well, because I got the 4K transfers in. 88 Films Burial Ground. It looks immaculate. Don't know why it's called Night of Terror, which is what it's actually called in Italian. It basically is your casual, here's 20 minutes of softcore porn featuring weird, creepy son, and then a lot of zombies. It's great. Very brutal, very worth watching. Just complete chaos for like 85 minutes straight. Honestly, fucking insane. And it's like one of those, I just want zombies to kill a bunch of people with a small little development on the characters to get an understanding of who they are. Bam, that's your movie. Very schlocky, very Italian, loved it. Followed that with Roadhouse, of course, the Vinegar Syndrome 4K release. 4 stars again. I know, I'm giving these both 4 stars. I loved it. I thought it was like insanely fun. The 4K was beautiful. It was just looked really good. It was really funny. It just had a lot of great moments to it. So it's like very macho, but I did it. It's cool. I know it's one of those like so bad it's good, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe people just didn't get it. Anyway, on the 7th, I did a triple feature technically. I did a haunted Turkish bathhouse. I got the Mondo Macabro release. This is from 1975. It's technically porn on the it's technically porn. The artwork, I don't know if I can show a poster of it. Maybe if I can get an image of the cat ghost, because the last 20 minutes is the haunted part. The rest of it is basically softcore Japanese porn mixed with murder plot that becomes a haunting plot. It's very goofy. It's very fun though. I can see why people compare it to like Hausu. Very, very similar. Honestly, if you like Hausu, Evil Dead 2, porn, it's great. Watch it for those reasons. Yeah, it does have a rape scene, which is very fucked up, but it makes the villains more villainous. So there you go. If they don't just do murder, they do also other bad, immoral stuff. It's a treat. Anyway, I followed that up with Inherent Vice. I know, weird double feature, but I was high. 4.5 stars. It's still a good film. I loved it. I loved it the first time I watched it. I have no idea what the hell happens in the plot by the end of it. In the last like 30 odd minutes, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening anymore. I think the movie purposely loses track of itself because I have no idea what happens in the last half an hour plot-wise, like where all the mysteries converge kind of deal, like how, like where it all wraps up in your mystery sense, but I don't really care. I liked it. That was all I needed. So yeah, and then I watched Everything in This Dream, which is the little short feature he did. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't like giving those 3-star ratings because they're just deleted scenes, but this had a nice aesthetic to it. It's good. I liked it. Then I watched in IMAX Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I gave it 4.5 stars. Currently my favourite movie of the year. Watched it with my mate Guy in IMAX. We really expected there to be IMAX ratio shots. There were none because, I don't know, they just didn't have it. They advertised this movie to be in IMAX. They showed the whole bridge jumping scene in the IMAX theaters in the IMAX ratio when you watched Avatar. And then it's like, hey, this movie isn't in IMAX. I don't know why. So, yeah, it wasn't in IMAX for long because, of course, Nolan's new film, which I'm probably never going to see in IMAX because it's sold out everywhere. Sold out insanely a lot. So I'm seeing it tomorrow in the Extreme Screen, so you'll get my review in a couple of minutes. But, yeah, I would also like to watch it at the Astor in 70mm. So it's either going to be IMAX or the Astor, but 15, 70 or 70mm. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Do I want to wait till the 1st of September? A whole month to watch the film in IMAX? I don't know. I really don't. And you can't refund tickets, so if I'm busy that day or I'm sick, I'm toast. Anyway, on the 9th, I watched 3 films, technically, a short film. Phantom Thread, 5 stars. Honestly, favorite PT film. I love it. I've always loved it. This is like the 3rd time I've watched it. I saw it in cinemas when it came out. I watched the Blu-ray with my grandparents like a year later. And I haven't watched it since, and this is the first time I've watched it since, and I love it. I adore this film. It's a very comfort film for me. I don't know. It's just beautiful. Yeah. I also watched For the Hungry Boy, which was the deleted scenes thing of the short films that, PT crafts with his spare footage. I gave it 4 stars. I still really liked it. I like the mood and the atmosphere. I like when they use deleted scenes because it's like there's like stuff that's either as expansions on character stuff or like stuff that they could have put in but they didn't. And this stuff has like, oh, they had kids, and I'm like, and you see the kids, and I'm like, oh, okay, they totally had kids. But then in the movie, it's like she's got a pram, so it's implied that obviously they had kids, and it's like it doesn't matter. They make it work and whatever. It's like that's nice, but just in the short film, they're like, wow, they really wanted to hammer home that they had kids. Anyway, I also watched the 4K of Naked Lunch, the Cronenberg film. I gave it 4 stars. It's a very weird film. If it wasn't based on a book, I would think that this is probably absolute dog shit. Mostly because it's so crazy, but obviously because it's based on a book, a lot of it's basically one of those where everything could be subtext is literally subtext, but context at the same time. Like, oh, this drug powder, like this what is it, bug powder is technically like a metaphor for like heroin or something. It's like everything's a metaphor for something else or symbolic for something else throughout the whole entire film. It's very weird. You might need to watch it twice. It's very weird. I liked it though. It's not my favorite of Cronenberg's. It's not my least favorite though, so I still liked it a lot. And the 4K was tremendous. Arrow Video again, bang up job. And then my brother came over from the Europe. He came back. He's back now. So we did a bunch of Insidious watches. We watched Insidious Chapter 2, Insidious Chapter 3, Insidious The Last Key. I had all 4 on Blu-ray. We watched all 4. You can go check out my Camera and Relax talk where I review and rank them all, including the 5th one. I won't do any reviews here, but I will say that I enjoyed a few of them. I didn't like a few of them. And that's as far as we're going to go. Pretty fun and spooky, which was great to sleep. But at the same time, we watched the first film on the 10th, and then on the 11th, we did the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That was wonderful. So yeah. Then on the 12th, because Noah had watched The Conjuring during the daytime when I was at work, I came home and he was talking about horror films. I'm like, this is weird. He's obviously been replaced by a pod person or something. I don't fucking care. But he's talking about horror films. I'm like, oh, well, I'll let it slide. So he wanted to watch more horror films, so we did The Exorcist. I gave it 5 stars. I don't think it's a very scary film, but I think it is a very interesting film. Character-driven, that kind of stuff. I think it's scary for its time because Christians scared by the devil. Simple as that. What's scarier than the devil? To Christians? Gays, probably. Nevertheless, masterpiece of a film. I watched the extended cut. I would love to get... There's going to be a 4K release coming out soon, which I want to get because it will come with the theatrical cut. I would like to have both versions. But yeah, pretty neat. Though it's an interesting film. It's goofy, but it's not bad. But then, of course, I was like, hey, if we're going to watch The Exorcist, we might as well watch Exorcist 3, because I had the Arrow Video version. I have not got the 4K version, because I'm happy with the Arrow Video version I have. So we watched The Exorcist 3. This is the second time I've watched the theatrical cut. I watched it with Noah this time, introducing it to him. I like The Exorcist 3 more than Exorcist 1. I still only gave it 4 stars. I don't know, it's one of those disputed masterpiece horror versus... It's just, Exorcist, the first Exorcist film has just a great start and wrap around. I just am more interested in the third film. I didn't watch the Legion cut. I don't think I will at any time because it's just all the, VHS footage jumped in with a different ending. And I'm like, I honestly kind of like the version that we're given. I feel like it's an Alien 3, theatrical assembly kind of deal. Like, do you want the extra footage or do you want the weird theatrical version? I like the theatrical version. I'm not huge on the Brad Dourif stuff. That's my low point for the movie, which sucks, because I love Brad Dourif and he's amazing in this movie, but I do not give a shit for his monologue. He goes on for like 20 straight minutes just talking about how evil things, I don't know. It just like drags the whole middle act of the movie because I'm just like sitting here watching him just like Man, if I was in the mood, this would be really cool, but I am just not giving a shit. Like, the police procedural for the first half is great, and then the Exorcist horror stuff for the second half, the possessions and stuff is even more insane, with some great jump scares. I loved it, but yeah, just that weirdly the Red Door stuff weighs it down a lot for me. Just mainly the monologue in the middle. Yeah, I still love Dorothy. He's great, and he's still good in the film. But yeah, it's a make or break for me for some reason. Anyway, I had tried watching Mission Impossible Rogue Nation on the Monday, but instead I finished it on the Thursday. I watched Rogue Nation on Thursday. I watched, this is the 13th. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's still my favourite Mission Impossible. Not the best, but my favourite. Watched the 4K because Noah was out of the house. And I don't know, Sam was at work. I don't remember. I don't know, I just wanted to watch it. I'd already started the first 45 minutes of it. I figured I might as well bloody finish it. I really wanted to. So I did, and I loved it. It's great. And then I followed it up with Blade Runner 2049. I haven't watched this in like 2 years or something. I don't know. It just felt like it was about time to rewatch it. I wanted to rewatch it before Mum and Dad got back. And Noah was out. It was dark now. I could watch it on the OLED TV, even though I know that it really doesn't benefit too much from OLED because of its lack of nits or whatever the crap. I don't care. I want to watch it. I want the loud music going. It was beautiful. I loved it. It's still my favorite film of all time. It's one of those films that I feel like because I don't constantly rewatch it like every goddamn Tuesday, that I'm like, I could do that with Scott Pilgrim compared to this film. And I'm like, is that a bad thing? And I'm like, no, I feel like I'd be depressed if I watched this every goddamn Tuesday. Like, it's not a very optimistic film, but I don't mind that. It's beautiful. It's such a wonderful movie. It is art. But yeah. On the Friday the 14th, I watched, I did a double feature in 4K, The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. I'm yet to watch the third one, just in general, but I wanted to rewatch these two. I wanted to watch the third one. Didn't get around to watching the third one. I'll eventually watch it as probably the Coda version. If you have a suggestion on theatrical or Coda, let me know. I have all three versions. I will probably just watch the Coda version. Either way, these two are obviously masterpieces. I'm not really a big stickler for the I don't know. I'm not really gonna slam fucking Godfather down someone's throat. They watch it, they don't. I don't give a shit. I think they're amazing films. I'm not in love with them, but I think that they're good. They're 5-star films. I don't know which one I prefer the most. The first one for me is more iconic, but the second one I think is like thematically richer because obviously the contrast between Michael and Vito. It's insane, but I mean the ending of the first one's more iconic because there's a lot of iconic moments in the first one, whereas the second one isn't as iconic, but it has more power and impact. And the final scene comparing the two, and I'm like, oh, the first one, it's the visual image, oh my god, but then the second one is like, it's so subtle, but it's all there. It's masterful filmmaking. Then I rewatched Mission Impossible Fallout on the 16th because I wanted to. My brother had a party the night before, so I had the theatre room to myself the next day. Rewatched Fallout, 5 stars, best Mission Impossible film, hands down. It's just insane to watch it. It's like, this is just the most insane shit, adrenaline pumping shit, and I loved it. Then the one I watched on the 17th, the Amityville Horror, kind of sucked. I had the second sight Blu-ray, just the standard edition. I don't think I'm going to get a 4K upgrade of this, even though Vinegar Syndrome's apparently is really good. I gave it 2 stars. It was really boring. It's one of those... Obviously, it's the basis of a lot of what came after, like Conjuring, Insidious, a lot of Poltergeist, a lot of paranormal haunted house movies. But it's one of those, every 5 minutes there's a different horror thing, and they're all different to each other. They never repeat the same horror thing, except for main guys kind of possessed a little. It's very weird. It's like they just kept throwing stuff at the wall and just kept sliding down. They just threw something else at the wall. It's still got some interesting stuff, but I don't really care for it. It was alright. And then Noah wanted to watch Hot Fuzz, so we watched Hot Fuzz, because he's been on TikTok too much and they keep quoting Hot Fuzz. 5 stars, loved it, watched the Blu-ray. Can't go wrong with Hot Fuzz. It's Edgar Wright's best film, but not my favourite of his, much like with Mission Impossible Fallout. My favourite is still Shaun of the Dead, but his best film is still Hot Fuzz. Then we watched Insidious The Red Door. Take a look at my, obviously, Come and Relax Talk to see what happens in that video stuff. Maybe that comes out tomorrow. I don't know. It'll come out soon. Either way, I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but I'm like, I liked it. My brother liked it. That was all I needed, you know. I didn't give it a like on Letterboxd. I feel like I should, but it didn't really warrant one. I think I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I don't know. We'll see. Then I had a horrible head cold for the past couple of days. My girlfriend's back and I had a head cold, which is wonderful. What a great mix. So I did a double feature. I watched Back to the Future on the Thursday night in 4K. Looks tremendous. Masterful piece of a film. 5 stars. Not much else I can say about it. Perfect movie. And then I followed it with Back to the Future Part 2 on the next day because my girlfriend fell asleep after dinner. Or tried to watch How to Train Your Dragon. She fell asleep. So I was like, I'm going to put on Back to the Future 2. So I watched Back to the Future 2. And I watched it in 4K, and it was still really good. I gave it 3.5 stars last time, but I gave it 4 stars this time. But then I had a documentary feature start playing, something about time. Either way, I'm going to finish that tonight after I watch part 3. Because it's a really interesting documentary of the making of. So, yeah, I don't know. Check it out if you've got the 4K set. I think it's on the Blu-ray as well. It came out in 2010. On the 22nd, I watched, with my girlfriend, Barbie. I gave it 4 stars. Still a really good film. I'm planning to rewatch it with Lachlan soon. It's a very weird film, but I like it. Like, I talked to my colleague about it, who she expected it to be it's Barbie, whatever, and she wanted that, you know. This is my 40-odd-year-old colleague, 30-odd-year-old colleague, who has, 3 kids. She went with her kids. She wanted it to be Barbie, the movie. Instead it was Barbie, fuck you. Fuck your childhoods, sexism, and patriarchy and stuff. But I really liked it thematically. I think it's really rich. It's very on the nose with its themes, I think. The obvious identity being the villain, the fact that there's stuff about feminism and the patriarchy and stuff like that. That stuff is very on the nose, and it's clearly talking about that. But the inherent thing about being about identity, I think, is really rich. I had to even, to some degree, explain it to my girlfriend at the end, because she didn't exactly understand the ending, and I think there's kind of unless you can kind of really read through the themes properly, I guess, I don't know, depending on what you want the film to be saying, it might not be as easy as a film to digest. Her kids, my colleague's kids, didn't like it that much, so it's her son did, but her daughter didn't, so it's one of those things where it's I think there's an element that because the film is approaching it in this kind of commentary heavy way, you know, what the far right people would call woke, because it's going in that kind of way, it's very heavy handed in a way, but I think it's the best way it could have done it. In terms of its approach, the fact that it could still do comedy and still be fun and be bouncy and colourful whilst having this really kind of dark subject matter of how fucked society is. It's really interesting. It's kind of quirky. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely check it out if you're interested. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, Barbie, that's just for girls or whatever. Bitch, I played with Barbie as a goddamn kid. Who gives a shit? This isn't that Barbie. This is existential capitalist Barbie. It's a very different version of Barbie. It's the reality of Barbie, what it means as a symbol, as an idea, and it's very interesting. So I might give it a higher review next time if I love it as much as I did this time, but it was very off and on again for me in a way. There was a big monologue that a lot of people like in it that I thought was I get it, I get the themes, I understand it, I don't need the monologue personally, but it's I can understand if a lot of other people do. A lot of people need to hear these words said in the movie, directed to Barbie, of all people, of all characters, you know, and I'm I understand it, I'm totally cool with it, it's fine, it is what it is. I have no grievances with its messaging or its style, but I can understand if people wanted something else or expected something else. But from what I can gather, most people absolutely adore it, and cool, good for them. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for everyone who enjoyed this movie, except for Ben Shapiro. Anyway, I didn't do a double feature of Oppenheimer. I was sick. I'm sorry. You know, I was getting over a head cold. It's packed cinema anyway. The cinemas are booked out. It's insane to see that. But I'm seeing Oppenheimer tomorrow, so don't worry about it. You'll see my review in a couple minutes. But then on Sunday night, I watched with my dad and my brother Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I watched it the second time. Still a packed cinema again, and honestly, I still loved it. I think it's a very slow start, but it like kind of ramps up and builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up and then just fucking catapults. Almost literally. I still just love it. I think it's an amazing film. I don't think it's my favorite of them, but they're all so good that I don't care. Because it's just so... the final 20 minutes are so intense to watch. It's fucking brilliant. So, like, I'm pretty sure the person in the row in front of me had a panic attack. They were just, like, jumping out of their seats. Like, I can't handle all this tension. And I'm like, I know, it's so good. Like, I'm here going, like, fuck yeah, do it again. And she's just like, I can't handle this. And I'm like, this is great. Man, out of context, that sounds really fucked up. I'm talking about movies. Anyway. Went on the Criterion channel that night, and I watched The Alphabet because they had these sections for 5 minutes or less, 15 minutes or less, 30 minutes or less, an hour or less, whatever, for films. So they had The Alphabet from 1969, which is David Lynch's short film. I don't know if it's his first one, but I hadn't logged it before. And I said, what's scarier than The Exorcist, and has a score designed by that saliva suction pump at the dentist? It's this goddamn film. Well, let's put it this way. If your kid doesn't comprehend the alphabet after this, you can disown them. I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't like doing that for shorts, but it's like, it's contrasting to David Cronenberg's ones. It's just better and terrifying. There was some fucking terrifying imagery on this goddamn 4-minute long short, and I'd suggest it. It's probably on YouTube, but I don't care. It was good. Actually, I think it is on his YouTube anyway. But then I also watched Hairwolf, which is a 2018 short film by Mariama Diallo. My pronunciation's down the shitter, but that's okay. Thought it was really interesting. It's a 12-minute short that's called Hairwolf, again on the Criterion channel. I didn't give it a star rating because it's like, it's tricky for me to review it in that way, but it's clearly a it feels like it's obviously like got the social commentary elements and whatnot. A lot of the themes you got to kind of show immediately because it's a 12-minute long short, but it's also like a cute like homage to a bunch of horror stuff. I thought there was a lot of weird jokes that I didn't get because, well, I'm not a Black American woman or person in general. I'm Australian, doesn't really help. A lot of the translation doesn't really work for me. Like they're talking about like De Niro and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck did De Niro do? I'm like, what's happening here? So there's stuff in it that I didn't understand on a cultural element, but I understood the basic premise of or what it was going for. The whole like homage to like the subtext of zombies and stuff with white people appropriating black culture and stuff. I understand that. I'm not a fucking idiot. So it's like, I thought that was very funny what they were going for. The ending was very weird. Obviously it was a reference to the Thriller music video, but yeah, just I think it's one of those. No, I mean, I got it. I got the joke, but still. It just came out of nowhere, but I'm like, it is what it is. But yeah, anyway, what else did I watch this month? I've watched a few more films. Watched Back to the Future Part 3, as I said that I probably would. I don't know, I think it was assumed at least. I gave it 4 stars. 4K, obviously. Gotta be honest, I think it's my favourite of the 2 sequels. I did give it the same, star rating as the third part, as the second part, but at the same time the second part is a flawed film, but it's a fun film. It benefits from having all these like iconic moments, even if like the future stuff is goofy, and then the alternate Biff world is goofy, and even the end of the film is kind of goofy as well in the 50s. It's like, but it's all fun, and it has my favourite ending of the trilogy, because honestly, I love the where we're going, we don't need roads is a classic ending to a film, but I just love the ending of the second part where it's like, oh hey, I'm back from the future that you just sent me to like 2 seconds ago. Oh, I love that so much. But yeah, so the third part I still really love. The western elements are great. It's the train sequence is fantastic. I love the dance sequence. It's probably my favorite. The dance sequence, it's my favorite part of the film. I think because I'm trying to think of why. Mostly the frisbee part, honestly. But I love it. It's everything. Even my mate guy was like, it's so great. He just says that guy's an asshole, and he's an asshole in the American twang. But yeah, it was fun. I finally was able to conclude, of course, the technically mini-series thingy, which you can still log on Letterboxd as a film. It's basically 2 hours and whatever, is Tales from the Future from 2010. Yeah, it's good stuff. it was really informative, went perfect, like, because I'd watched the second one, and then it was just, like, came on immediately after, like, after the deleted scenes, and I was, like, Googling the question, oh, why did the cast change, and it explained it, and I'm like, oh, great, so I watched 15 minutes of that, was like, I gotta go to bed, whatever, went to bed, went the next day, watched the whole first, actually it was the Sunday, yeah, I watched it, basically it all on the Sunday. I watched the first two parts, like the first film's parts, the second film's parts, and then I watched the third film, and then the third film's parts of the doco. But yeah, 3.5 stars, really like that one. Of course, on the 25th, I watched Oppenheimer. Finally, I did it, and me and my mate saw it in the Hoyt's Extreme screen. I hated the fact that I was doing that. Arguably better choice than VMAX, let's be honest. VMAX is a lot of lights. A lot of lights everywhere. Like, Extreme Screen doesn't have as many lights. But it's like the cropped aspect ratio and everything was just like, oh, this is bad. But the reclining seat was really nice, so it was comfy. That's the pro over VMAX, so that's nice at least. And I couldn't see the person in front of us because they've got this, like... If you know Hoyts in Australia and you know what their cinemas are like now, the reclining cinema ones, it's like they've cut out half of the chairs and just made them all recliners, and there's like a great gap between your chair and the little bit at the end, and there's like little like walls and shit, so you can't see the person in front of you. It's wonderful until they like reach their phone up like that because they're an asshole. But we didn't have to worry about that. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I like it more than Barbie. I definitely think I like it more than Barbie. But, I mean, to be fair, they're both phenomenal films, and I'm very excited to rewatch both. Of course, I'll be watching Barbie again in a week or so with my friend Lachlan, because he loved it. But also, I will be rewatching Oppenheimer in IMAX. I booked tickets the minute the movie was done. My mate and I, we went out and we're like, let's book tickets. But the thing is, we're not booking the movie, the screening until September the 7th, which is really annoying. Because all the IMAX was booked out, and they added more sessions like the day before me and Guy saw it. So I was aiming for like the 1st of September. It was the 1st of September, which was a Friday. I'm like, I don't work Fridays, I can do that, easy peasy. And we checked the booking, and it was basically packed. So I was like, yeah, there's no point in that. The next best one we could get on a weekday that I could afford to take that weekday off of work, maybe work the Friday instead, was the Thursday at 3 p.m. I called up my mate PM. I'm like, hey, you want to come see Oppenheimer on this day at this time? Because it's a commute for him to come to the city. It's like, he lives way out in Castlemaine, so it's like a 2-hour trip in and out. So, he's seen it this week with his dad. So it's like, look, it'll be a month and a bit for both of us, for all three of us, so that works fine. But yeah, I was hoping to watch it the Astor in 70mm, but honestly, IMAX in 1570 will be perfect. We got good seats too. So, but I really enjoyed it, even in extreme screen. Probably the third best choice, if I was to say, in Melbourne at least, with IMAX, then the Astor with the 70mm projection, or even the 4K projection, and then, of course, probably Hoyt's. At least you're getting a big screen with a lot of noise, VMAX probably would be the next best option. Maybe Gold Class or something, but I would hate having people walk into the cinema with your food and then it just cuts to the parts where he's imagining the explosion and just like, oh fuck, well there goes all your champagne, I'm sorry. Loud noises. So anyway, fun movie. I'll see it again. Fun movie. It's fucking depressing, dude. But it's just so well made. It's good stuff. Then on the 26th, I figured, look, I found these on the Criterion channel. I already had one of them on Blu-ray, but I figured, bugger it, I'll just double feature the Criterion channel. I watched The Brood from Cronenberg. I hadn't seen it before, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Like, it's a very clear, hey, this movie goes out to my wife. Fuck you, you're a bitch. But I loved it. Like, the pacing was interesting, and the last half was really good. Like, when the murder sequences came in, I was just like, oh fuck, this is fucked up. Like, it was like genuinely scary to watch the first murder scene. I'm like, this is just brutal. And then it just kept on going. Oh, and it was great. And the kind of twist that they do at the end, well, not the final twist that is kind of a bit tacky, but the mother twist was really fun. So yeah, this one felt like this feels like proper Cronenberg, a good start if it's like your first Cronenberg in a way. Which says a lot because the next film I watched, also on the Criterion Channel, which was a rewatch for me, was Scanners. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't care that much for it. It's one of those films where I watched it like 5 years ago or something because I bought the Blu-ray. Because I'd heard of it, I'd seen images of the guy's head exploding. I'm like, this should be fun. The only Cronenberg I'd seen was The Fly by that stage, which of course is like one of his best films. And I always forget it's a Cronenberg film because I always think of just it as a Fly film before I think of it as Cronenberg. Nevertheless, yeah, Scanners is good, and it's a decent entry point in a way. This is came out 2 years after, but it was his next entry, and it still feels like, despite being a 1981 film, it still feels like a very 70s film in its style and hairline and clothing and everything. Hair and makeup. It just feels very 70s still. The practical stuff is great, but I didn't care much for the plot, and the main character is really dull to watch. So, yeah, there's just a lot of... It feels like it's Cronenberg's excuse to do all these great effects work in a really dull, film, but it still is his idea that, the telepathy stuff and all that was, in, stereo, that film he'd done earlier. So it's like he tried doing a film version of that and made a decent film, a lot better than stereo. But yeah, it's definitely no Crimes of the Future deal, so yeah, but still. And tonight I watched Talk to Me at the Hoyts again. Of all things, my girlfriend wanted to watch it. She'd mentioned it the night before. She was like, hey, we should watch this tomorrow. And I was like, oh god, I don't know if I want to watch that. Because I love horror. You all know that. I just fucking watched 2 Cronenbergs. But modern horror has a different taste to me. It's very particular sometimes. And I was really kind of anxious because I'd seen some of the starts of some of the trailers because the Cinema Nova had been advertising or whatever, about the girl touches the hand, says talk to me, gets possessed, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do that. It just feels stylistically like I will get too anxious watching it. And it was actually really fun. That part of the trailer was only in the first 15-20 minutes of the movie, and then the rest of the movie just keeps on going, and it's just it's not what I expected. It felt like was it Flatliners? It felt like Flatliners. I've never seen Flatliners, but it feels like Flatliners, but a lot more fun, and also just a cooler idea, even though again I've never seen either version of Flatliners. So yeah, it had great practical effects, some really, a really nice scare early on. The rest of it is, atmospheric scares with, just creepiness and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is fun. This is kind of the third and the fifth Insidious film for me. It was just like that. It didn't really have, loud jump scares. It was just about how creepy and fucked up it was. So, yeah. No spoilers, but a good Aussie flick. Check it out. Not to mention the 2 directors had actually gone to Supernova this year. I only realised this because I'd forgotten. My mate Guy commented on it because I mentioned in my review, how it was Helene watching TikTok reviews suggesting to go watch the film, that she went and watched it and encouraged me to go watch it with her. And it was funny because it's I mentioned that in my review, and Guy was like, oh, well, there was also something else that indirectly influenced you to watch the film, and that's Bat Pussy, which is a 70s porno that I bought on Blu-ray at Supernova from Dead End DVD, because they had a booth there. And when I picked it up and was looking at it and whatever, after Bill had said, you should get this one, Julian. And the guys there mentioned that, oh, do you know that film Talk to Me that's coming out soon? Yeah, the 2 directors were here and they bought a copy as well. So it's I bought a film that the same directors bought the same film from the same vendor. I'm I'd forgotten that had happened. I remember them telling about it, the Dead End DVDs guys telling us about it, but I didn't realize what they were talking about. I didn't realize that there's a film coming out called Talk to Me, because I'm I don't fucking know what you're talking about. And now I do. So it's that's just really fun. Good to know we all have really fucking messed up tastes. But hey, what else did I watch? I did also want to mention as a little extra thing, I actually had my first nosebleed before I watched this film. That had never happened before. It was on the tram on the way to where me and my girlfriend met up at the shopping centre, and it was just yeah, that happened. It was not fun. I've never had a nosebleed before. Who'd have thought? So I was messaging people oh my god, I'm having a nosebleed, what the hell's going on? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's like, fine, it happens. I'm like, it's never happened to me. This is fucking weird. And mine a panic attack, so I threw up. It was great. I was outside, but that stage I like gotten off the tram, like I need fresh air. I'm gonna throw up. Wonderful stuff. Probably help with the anxiety for the movie. So I don't know, noteworthy, I guess. I don't know. On Saturday night, the 29th, I watched Project X with two of my mates. This was on Netflix, so we did a group watch. Yeah, we had a throw up of different films, and it was a throw up. Up in the air, toss up of different films to choose from, and that was one we landed on, which actually like leaves Netflix on the 31st of July anyway. So when you're watching this, it's gone. Bye. Sorry. I do like that it tells you that when you put it on, but like it doesn't have like a section that says on Netflix, oh, these are leaving at this date. You gotta like look it up. What's leaving at the end of this month? Criterion Channel is give you emails. This is what's leaving at the end of the month, and they'll tell you halfway throughout the month. You know, I like that about it. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I'm like, it's fine as a film. It's more of those. It's fun to watch because it's a bunch of people going crazy having a big party. Like, the party part is the fun part to watch because it just keeps going and going and going. It is inherently just like about a bunch of kids just having fun, and then with a camera, and then it becomes the party. And it's still very the teenage boys kind of fantasy movie, you know. Oh my god, they're all drinking booze, there's titties out, oh my god, there's explosions, Miles Teller, oh my god. So it's that kind of a movie. It's fine, but yeah, it is what it is. I can understand the cultural impact that it had at the same time, but yeah. Last night I watched The Big Lebowski. I haven't seen this in a couple of years now. I find it really amusing because I was like looking at the Letterboxd reviews that people that I follow had written, and a lot of like people had put it down like the lowest was like 3.5 stars. Everyone else was like 5 stars. But then I had followed people who had given it 3.5 stars initially and just kept giving it higher star ratings upon rewatch. And I think that's the basket I was in, because I hadn't logged in on Letterboxd because I watched it back in like maybe 2018, I think. And I think I watched it with Dad. I didn't get it. I didn't care for it. It wasn't like, I don't get this, I don't understand it, I don't like, there was just elements to it that it just didn't click with me, you know. And so upon rewatch last night, especially the 4K UHD, wonderful transfer, brilliant. Honestly, it's probably, I wouldn't say it's my favorite Coen, but because I got a lot of great Coen films, obviously. I mean, I think Fargo's still probably my favorite, but I mean, I gotta be honest, this is probably their master. I don't know what the hell their masterpiece is. They got such a range of films, and they're still making movies. But yeah, just good cinema, good flick. Check out the 4K. I would suggest it. And last but not least is Tangled, which I gave 4 stars. I hadn't watched it yet, and given how currently popular my video talking about the death of physical media has been, it was suggested by one of the people who commented on it, saying that Tangled was their favourite of the Disney animated films. So I'd gotten that in the sale. So I figured, oh, well, I'll watch it. I haven't seen it yet. And yeah, it's really good. So I was happy with that. Not much else in terms of what I've been watching. I have started the new season of Futurama. I'll know more by next month how much I like it, because I didn't like the first episode. But, I mean, it's on Disney+, which I don't think I need to reiterate the fact that my girlfriend is paying for that and I don't. I just log in, you know, so I'm not giving them money, that's for sure. But I don't know, because some people are really particular about that. I don't know. I'm not on the fence about whether or not I like to stream. I just like the fact that I can do both. That's my avenue. I'm not cutting full support. I just like, you know, I'm not giving them any money, so I'm not supporting them for Disney Plus. So that's why I'm okay with it. But the only streaming service I pay for is Criterion Channel. So yeah, and occasionally stuff like Binge or Stan or whatever if there's shows I really want to watch. But that's seasonal mostly, and Paramount Plus. Anyway, see you next time. Busy week this week. If you got to the end of this and you're wondering what the hell's going on with all these videos, I don't know. A lot of people are subscribing, and I figured I've got a whole bunch of videos that are all similar, so I'm releasing them all this week. I'll do a small update soon, I guess. We'll see. See you next month. Adios.